James, can you do one more thing for Anand? One more song?
Yeah, very quick.
Yep.
Sorry.
No worries. Anytime. Checking and testing. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 9 8 7 6 5 4 1 2 3 4 5. And he'll be at this height. Check 1 2 3 4.
Thanks. Yeah.
I think that your shot is steady.
The government.
Your shot is alive.
I'll give it up this year.
Are the paddles dirty? Al, the paddles are dirty. Sont sales. Oh boy. Tu me descendre une petite affaire de ce côté-là?
See the descent?
Ouais.
So can you put?
J'ai beaucoup de dead space. Can you scroll up a little, James? Just so I can see more text. Okay, ça. Puis descendez de même un peu. J'ai beaucoup de dead space comme en haut. Une petite affaire. A little bit more. Là, tu me...
Body.
Okay, great. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Bonsoir. Bonsoir tout le monde. I'd like to begin by thanking the Team Canada here at our mission for hosting over the course of this weekend, today, into this week, into Monday, actually, of next week, when I think our Foreign Minister will be addressing the General Assembly. Le nouveau gouvernement du Canada a pour mission de renforcer et diversifier nos partenariats, ainsi que de diriger les efforts mondiaux visant à reconstruire le système international fondé sur les règles et basé sur les principes. Cette mission est menée par des personnes dévouées et travaillantes, présentes dans cette salle et dans l'autre salle et dans nos ambassades partout dans le monde. You know, for decades, Canada's foreign policy has relied on a certain number of premises. First, a rules-based multilateral trading system. Secondly, collective security anchored by NATO. Third, our enviable geography, which has shielded us from distant conflicts while connecting us to the world's largest and most dynamic economy directly to the south. And we also had the expectation that the world would converge over time towards free markets, open societies, and democratic values. But now the world is undergoing a series of fundamental shifts. New technologies have brought distant threats to our door. Power has become multipolar. Authoritarianism is resurgent. And consensus within many democracies, not all, but many democracies, has fractured. These developments are also reducing the effectiveness of global institutions on which middle powers like Canada have long relied. And it's happening fast. This isn't a transition, it's a rupture. Yet, even with that background, after my time here in New York during United Nations High-Level Week, I'm even more certain than ever that in this new era, Canada won't just endure this shift, we will prosper. Nous avons bâti une nouvelle ère, et dans cette ère, le Canada prospérera. And why? Well, first, we have what the world wants. Canada is an energy superpower in both clean and conventional energy. We're amongst the top 5 producers of the world's most important critical minerals. We're a leading developer of artificial intelligence, and we have the world's best talent in quantum and computer science. The second reason is we embody the values to which much, not all, but much of the world aspires. Canada has always been and always will be committed to fundamental human rights, to human dignity, to individual freedom and sustainability. We're a pluralistic society that works. By our very nature, we practice daily collaboration and partnership. Enfin, le Canada a la clarté d'objectifs et la détermination nécessaires pour être à la hauteur de ce moment. Le nouveau gouvernement du Canada répond à ce changement profond avec détermination et avec toute la force requise. We're building our strength at home, diversifying partnerships abroad, and building a new web of connections to pursue our interests and defend those values. And that's what we've been focused on this week in New York. To build a stronger economy, alongside meeting global leaders, I've met with business leaders from around the world to discuss investment in Canada as we accelerate major projects, as we move towards doubling the pace of home building and scaling up our defense spending in ways that build our economy. I underscored Canada's strong and stable business environment, our highly skilled workforce, and our leadership in those emerging areas of AI, quantum, clean energy, clean technology, advanced manufacturing, critical minerals, and digital infrastructure. I outlined our government's new industrial strategy to transform the Canadian economy so it can be resilient to global shocks and help all Canadians to get ahead. I highlighted the recent launch of the Major Projects Office, which will fast-track projects in Canada's national interest. To diversify our trade and security relationships, I met with leaders from Asia, Africa, Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, seeking new export markets and new opportunities for Canadians. Tomorrow, the President of Indonesia will visit Ottawa. Our work together will expand Canada's commercial markets in Asia and empower Canadian workers with new opportunities. And on Thursdays, I will host the Irish Taoiseach as we continue to deepen our commercial, cultural, and security ties with the EU and its member states. And to build a new resilient web of global connections, we're working with the UN and other partners to find collective solutions to the most pressing challenges the world faces today, from Ukraine to the Middle East. This week, Canada provided over $200 million in new funding to improve global nutrition, address climate change, and reduce poverty. This includes new initiatives with partners in Africa, South America, the Middle East, and the Caribbean. And as part of a collective, coordinated international effort, Canada recognized the State of Palestine. We offered our partnership in building the promise of a peaceful future for both the State of Palestine and the State of Israel. To that end, Canada will also contribute $47 million in new funding to Gaza and West Bank to strengthen judicial systems, governance structures, and democratization efforts. This brings Canada's total contributions and assistance to Gaza and the West Bank to over $400 million, including humanitarian supports, health and recovery efforts, and development aid. In parallel, we continue to pursue, with partners, justice and lasting peace in Ukraine. As co-chair with President Zelenskiy of the International Coalition for the Return of Ukrainian Children, Canada convened leaders this morning to spotlight the tragedy of Ukrainian children illegally abducted by Russia and to catalyze a stronger international reaction. And finally, as part of Canada's ongoing efforts to stabilize the security situation in Haiti, we're deploying $60 million in new funding. This funding will reinforce the multinational security support mission in Haiti, expand maritime security in the Caribbean, and impede gun and drug trafficking. Ces efforts contribueront à bâtir un monde plus sûr et plus sécuritaire. Ils renforceront nos institutions, comme les Nations Unies, grâce à une coopération accrue. Lorsqu'il y a de la confiance, il y a du potentiel de collaboration. Et avec la collaboration viennent de nouvelles possibilités pour les travailleurs, les entreprises et les industries canadiennes. I'd like to conclude by saying a few words about Bob Rae. Bob is Canada's outgoing ambassador to the United Nations. Bob Rae has represented Canada at the federal, provincial, and now international level for almost 5 decades. I'm sorry, Bob, to bring up that, but almost 5 decades of stellar service. Bob Rae is a stalwart. He's a steady hand because he is always guided by principle. He is so often Canada's voice of conscience and conviction. Recently, Bob and I corresponded on the many daunting challenges facing Canada, the United Nations, and the world. And he reminded me of Leonard Cohen's words in his song Anthem. I quote, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's where the light gets in." In every moment where there's a crack, where there's a rupture, there is possibility. And it's our responsibility, it's our opportunity as Canada in this moment to find it. And after my visit to the United Nations General Assembly, I can assure Canadians that there is light, there are many possibilities. Look, we know that nostalgia is not a strategy. We can't rebuild the world as it was, but we can build something better. The work we're doing here at the UN is part of the transformation of our economy and our approach to global engagement. Canada is a determined and ambitious nation that is rising to the challenge of these age. It's helping to build a world where prosperity is shared, where security is collective, and where peace is lasting. In this new era, our partners will no longer rely on the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength. And with that, I look forward to taking your questions.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now begin with the question portion of this press conference. We'll do one question per journalist. Première question, first question.
Hi, Laura Dillon Kane, Bloomberg News. Given that we aligned our China tariff policy with the U.S. and we remain in delicate trade talks with the Trump administration, what realistically can we offer the Chinese government in exchange for some relief on canola tariffs? Could it involve allowing into Canada some greater Chinese investment or products related to the areas you mentioned yesterday, like climate or energy? And further, does your meeting with the Chinese premier today potentially lay the groundwork for an eventual meeting with Xi Jinping?
Well, thanks for the question. As I'm sure you know, but just to underscore, China is Canada's second largest trading partner. It has been for a long time. And there is a very broad range of commercial relationships that already exist and a much larger range of opportunities for both countries in developing the relationship. You mentioned some of them, clean and conventional energy. China, for example, is one of the purchasers of liquefied natural gas in the LNG project, which has just begun shipping gas. I should say LNG 1 because there's a second phase of that potentially. So in conventional energy, but as well in clean energy. That's one example. There are a range of opportunities, obviously, in agriculture and elsewhere. And I would take that as the first point. We can go into more detail if you wish. The second is there is some alignment of tariffs with the United States, and I will highlight particularly in the steel sector, where we've been very clear in the approach that we have taken, and we had an open discussion I did with the Premier and our Chinese colleagues about that and the reasons for that. The fact is that North America has an integrated steel market. Canada has the most open steel market in the world. We contribute to the competitiveness of many American industries, including the auto sector, and that's worth preserving. That's part of the discussions we're having with the Americans, but that is the first best use of Canadian steel and protecting those Canadian jobs, and this government is resolute about doing that. But there are other areas where, as I said, to go back to my first point, where we can expand. We had very constructive set of discussions which built on earlier phone calls, which built on exchanges between our foreign ministers, exchanges between our trade ministers. Those discussions will deepen. I expect to I will expect at the appropriate time to be meeting with President Xi Jinping, but continuing this dialogue with the Premier. Thank you.
Next question.
Judy Trin with CTV News. Prime Minister, should Canada have acted earlier to recognize Palestine? And secondly, if you could clarify a comment that you made during your fireside chat at the Foreign Council, you left open the door for using Canadian soldiers to support peace in Gaza, it appeared. Is that the case?
Yeah, thank you, Judy. The first point is that the decision to recognize Palestine, and the first indication that that was likely to happen, was first and foremost triggered by the prospect of a two-state solution, as I'll repeat myself, receding before our eyes. So it was something that was consistent. We've made this point from the start. It's consistent with Canada's policy, two-state policy, that's existed since 1947. Every Canadian government has had a two-state policy. And every Canadian government, ours included, had hoped that that would be the result of a negotiated settlement proceeding in an orderly fashion. But that there was a move and a common understanding, including by the Israeli government, of the desirability, ultimately, of having a free and viable Palestinian state living side by side in peace and security with the State of Israel. You've seen my statement, including at the UN yesterday. I detailed the reasons why that is receding. I can respond if you have a follow-up, but I'll just take that as read. So our decision was triggered by this possibility going away, in violation in part of international law, certainly inconsistent with the right to self-determination and freedom of people and dignity of people. And it was part, as you saw with the announcements in the last few days, of a coordinated effort a coordinated effort which is one part of a much bigger set of efforts to try to achieve a lasting peace in the region. Not all those efforts are aligned perfectly. It's understandable given the complexity of the situation. They all have the same goal. Last point to answer your second part of your question. If peace can be established in a demilitarized, and it has to be fully demilitarized, Palestine, no role for Hamas. And this is after the hostages have been returned as the first requirement and other factors. There will need to be a stabilization force. That stabilization force, my judgment, our judgment, will be an external stabilization force, a neutral stabilization force, something we used to call a peacekeeping mission. And since I'm at the UN, our mission, I would call a peacekeeping mission. A variety of countries would contribute to that. My comment is merely yesterday, and I'll be clear, Canada will do what's best for peace in that region. That could be material, it could be financial, it could be personnel. But I wouldn't put any more weight on that. There's so much more that has to happen in order for it to come together. Okay? Thank you.
Prochaine question.
Daniel Thibault de Radio-Canada. Je voudrais vous entendre, M. Carney, sur le discours de M. Trump aujourd'hui à l'ONU. Oui. Qu'est-ce que vous avez, quel message s'envoie un discours comme ça? Qu'est-ce que vous en avez retenu? Qu'est-ce que vous avez pensé de la portion sur les changements climatiques, où il a essentiellement décrit comme une arnaque toutes les initiatives de changement climatique qui sont mises de l'avant? Et qu'est-ce que vous souhaitez obtenir de votre rencontre avec lui ce soir?
OK, il y a plusieurs questions dedans. Alors, premièrement, j'ai entendu chaque mot de M. le Président et j'ai écrit quelques notes. Il y a plusieurs points dedans dans son discours et plusieurs points importants. Premier point important, c'est l'efficacité de l'ONU. OK, il faut augmenter, il faut renforcer l'efficacité de l'ONU. En ce qui concerne d'établir, maintenir la paix, par exemple, il faut que l'ONU est dans les discussions sur le terrain aussitôt que possible et partout, si c'est possible. Le Canada partage cet objectif. Et il a raison, Monsieur le Président, quand il a dit qu'il a réglé plusieurs conflits lui-même avec la force des États-Unis, mais lui-même sans les forces ou les atouts de l'ONU. Premier point. Deuxième point. Mais en même temps, vers la fin de son discours, il a souligné dans ses mots, quelques principes fondamentaux de l'ONU. La détermination des peuples, les droits des hommes et des femmes. Et il me semble qu'il ait ouvert la porte de la participation de l'ONU dans certaines circonstances afin d'établir la paix. Par exemple, c'est possible et selon nous, c'est nécessaire dans le cas d'Haïti. Okay. Et nous travaillons avec les Américains dans une étroite collaboration avec les Haïtiennes et les autres et l'ONU d'essayer de trouver une solution dans cette circonstance. Alors, ça c'est le premier point. Probablement c'est trop long. Alors, en ce qui concerne son passage sur l'énergie verte et tout cela, j'ai vu une grande occasion pour le Canada. Une grande occasion pour le Canada. C'est une opportunité absolument énorme parce que nous sommes une superpuissance énergétique, y compris dans énergie propre, énergie durable. Et oui, il y a le changement de climat. Oui, un aspect de la compétitivité des exportations à travers le monde, c'est la réduction du carbone. Alors, nous pouvons fournir des solutions et si pour le moment, c'est pas dans les intérêts des Américains, nous avons de la chance. Merci.
Next question.
Steve Chase, Globe and Mail. I want to ask you if you foresee any consequences to the Canada-U.S. relationship or our ability to reach a trade deal with Mr. Trump now that you've recognized Palestine. And if I might explain, Mr. Trump in August said that it would make it more difficult to reach a trade deal with Canada if we recognized Palestine. So Britain recognized Palestine, France recognized Palestine. They both have trade deals. Britain through itself, France through the EU. They've already secured their deals. How do you justify, do you see any consequences, and how do you justify taking that risk of alienating the United States when we still don't have a trade deal?
First of all, Steve, let's be absolutely clear. We have the best trade deal of any country in the world. Right now with the United States, we have 85% plus of our trade is free. We have the lowest tariff of any country in the world. That deal can be better. Both the President Trump, and I agree on that. We have a number of discussions. Our officials have a number of discussions on how that can be potentially structured. A lot of that will roll into this process of the review of what we call CUSMA, which is our agreement. You know this, but for everybody, agreement with the United States and Mexico. That review will start over the course of later this year. I mean, the individual country reviews, but the discussions will start later this year and into next year. And it's in that context. So that's the fundamental point. The second, with respect to the decision on Palestine, these are points of principle. These are points of fundamental. Canada has values, and Canada sticks by those values. We have an independent foreign policy. We make decisions that are consistent with our values, and our objective with respect to Palestine, State of Israel, broader Middle East, is exactly the same objective as the President of the United States, which is to establish peace. And the President is working hard. He had a very important set of meetings this afternoon with a number of leaders of Gulf states and Arab states. And we're working hard as well. I had a number of side meetings on exactly this issue with a number of influential powers. There is some complementarity to these efforts, and we will continue to do our bit to develop it. But with respect to the negotiations with the Americans, they're ongoing. We start from a strong position, but a position where we can make it better. And when the right deal is there for Canada, we will sign it.
Next question.
Good evening, Prime Minister. Evan Dyer, CBC.
Hi, Evan.
Today we seem to see a change of tone, maybe even a change of policy from Donald Trump about Ukraine. And he spoke more harshly than usually about Vladimir Putin. He seemed to be nicer to Zelenskiy than he's been in the past. He said he approved the shooting down of any aircraft that incur into NATO space. And then most significantly, he said that Ukraine should and could recapture all of its original territory. What do you make of that?
I think you're very perceptive, Evan, in your question. I think it's the President. I shouldn't presume to speak for the President. The President's own words speak for the President. The President, however, has made very sincere and multiple efforts to try to establish peace. He has used his long-standing relationship with President Putin in those efforts to try to establish peace. And Putin has failed on every occasion, every opportunity to advance at all these. He sent a junior team to Turkey under President Erdogan's sponsorship and President Trump. He played games with having a trilateral meeting. He's intensified the bombardments of Ukraine. He's testing NATO. He's testing NATO, multiple countries, multiple times. He's stolen children, and is showing no, of repatriation. And so I understand the President's tone today and his comments today. And from Canada's perspective, I'll finish on this. We are the largest per capita funder of Ukraine, humanitarian support, but also military support. We have been rightly aggressive in terms of our financial sanctions. We are ready to do more. Under Minister Champagne, I spoke to Secretary Bessent about this briefly today. Under Minister Champagne and Secretary Bessent, the G7 finance ministers are in discussions on further secondary sanctions. I referenced this in some public comments. So this is how to bring all pressure to bear to end this war. Thank you.
Next question. Prochaine question. Laura Julie.
Bonjour, M. Carney. Laura Julie Perrault de la presse. Pour revenir à la reconnaissance de la Palestine, vous venez toujours de parler aussi du nouveau financement que le Canada va accorder pour une réforme judiciaire. Il y a beaucoup d'organisations de la société civile au Canada qui disent c'est bien beau tout ça, mais d'abord la guerre doit terminer avant.
Oui.
Quel geste le Canada compte poser pour amener à la fin de la guerre à Gaza?
Encore une fois,
Pour amener vers la fin de la guerre à Gaza.
Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire afin
Qu'est-ce que le Canada compte faire?
Ce que nous pouvons faire est de fournir. Pour le moment, c'est surtout une question de l'aide humanitaire. C'est difficile, ça c'est clair, c'est difficile. On travaille directement avec nos alliés comme le Jourdain. Mais on doit, dans des circonstances comme cela, c'est une circonstance unique, il faut le dire, mais dans cette circonstance, ce qui est nécessaire, c'est de donner l'espoir, les fonds, le soutien, afin de rétablir les institutions civiles et les institutions judiciaires au Palestine. Juste après la cessation de la guerre. Okay.
Next question.
Plus ou moins.
Kelly.
Oui.
Kelly Malone with the Canadian Press. So Vice Admiral Angus Topshee said in a recent interview with the Canadian Press that the Royal Canadian Navy could support submarines supplied by both companies that are vying for the contract. How seriously is the Canadian government considering whether it would want to purchase a mixed submarine fleet? And do you have any updates on the F-35 report, particularly after the McGuinty meeting this week with Pete Hegseth?
A couple of things. One, I want to thank Vice Admiral Topshee for his service. I had the pleasure of spending half a day with him earlier this summer. And this process of procuring submarines is a major decision for the Canadian Navy, for the Canadian Forces, and for the Canadian government. I'm pleased that our new approach has been more efficient. We've shortened the time. We moved more quickly to those two options. And what the Vice Admiral said, apparently in your quotation, which is my understanding, is that both of these options work. Both of these are the Korean option and the German-Norwegian option, if I can put it that way. Both of them fulfill the requirements, the very high requirements for the Canadian Navy. Now, the question is, there's some further technical review that happens, but a lot of the questions then become, and this is going to go to your F-35 question, go to how are they built, where are they built, what are the industrial benefits that also come to Canada from that, and to go to your specific question about would we have a mixed fleet, I can give you an as expert answer that I can give you, which is obviously not expert, but there's nothing I see that would suggest that we would have a mixed fleet in submarines. You just get too many efficiencies and economies of having one fleet. I'll give you an example. If, in effect, if you have groups of 4 submarines, you have 3 of them out while you have one of them in dry dock that's being, not refurbished, but just tuned up, and the efficiency of just cycling the same type of submarine through that dry dock that has, the same parts and the same experts, it's just overwhelming. So when the decision is made by the right people, it will be made on the basis of one or the other after deliberation. Now, in terms of the F-35, I'll be quicker on this. It's an incredible aircraft, very strong. One of the determinations, though, of this government in spending is what are the industrial benefits that come alongside meeting our military requirements? And are there ways that we can both meet those military requirements and have greater industrial benefits? And, you know, I just want to sort of speak directly to Canadians on this. These are essential parts of securing our borders, protecting Canadians, fulfilling our obligations to our allies. They are also very expensive. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we get the biggest benefit for Canadians, Canadian jobs, Canadian families, Canadian futures. And we will do that. And so we'll make a decision once we've done all the work on that. And if I said that was the last thing, but I'm just going to reemphasize one point, is that the way we were making decisions until this government often was, what's the military requirement? If it fulfills the military requirement, we go with that. And you see both in terms of the submarine decision and the F-35 decision, when it comes, will be military requirement plus industrial benefits. How does the entire package benefit our country?
Last question. Dernière question.
Hi, Mr. Carney. Mackenzie Gray with Global News. A leaked audio recording of the public safety minister said that he couldn't explain the logic of the gun buyback program and that Ottawa was bending to pressure with Quebec. Today, he defended the program and still says he wants to go ahead with it. How can you have confidence in a minister that says one thing privately and another thing publicly in the House of Commons?
Well, let's first put this in context, which is that we're talking about fulfilling a campaign promise. We ran on this, first and foremost. Secondly, we're talking about taking guns off the street in a voluntary fashion. People voluntarily contribute the guns to the gun buyback program. But these are guns that are assault rifles, AR-15s and variants, thousands of variants, and that decisions have been taken by Parliament in previous parliaments to ban them. So we have a mechanic in place in order for people to return them, consistent with decisions of Parliament, sovereign Parliament, consistent with an election platform on which we ran and on which we were elected, and this is fulfilling that. And so the minister is doing important work.
You still have confidence in it?
I have confidence in the minister. He's doing important work. He's got a lot of important work this session of Parliament, including legislation on borders and others. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, j'ai confiance dans la ministre, ou pour le ministre, pas sur le ministre, mais dans le ministre, oui. Confiance dans le ministre, non. Honnêtement, j'ai la confiance dans le ministre. Et il travaille, il y a de travail important, y compris en ce qui concerne les armes à feu et la protection de nos frontières. Bon, merci.
Merci.
Merci
C'est ce
beaucoup.
qui m'a fait à notre conférence de presse. This puts an end to our press conference. Thank you.
Thank you.